Hey everybody, Chris McCabe of e-commerce. Chris here. Got some suspension trends I want to go over. This is a video series I came up with to address anything that I'm hearing and seeing, which sounds like it's widespread, or I'm getting a lot of calls and emails about it from a variety of sellers, and I consider it misguided, wrong, possibly dangerous. Today's tip is about contacting Amazon Legal or believing that you can only get through your suspension problem by going through Amazon Legal or some sort of legal appeals process. The more I hear about this, the worse it seems to get. Conversation I had with somebody last week, they said they had been contacting law firms. I think it was a related account suspension, but they were probably unsure if they should appeal the related account first or the original suspension first. But the lawyers they were speaking to, and there were more than one lawyer talking to them about this, said, you've got no chance going to seller performance. You've got no chance talking to account health. You've got no chance going through anywhere except legal. So I can help you with that because I'm a lawyer. Again, I'm paraphrasing what was being said, but don't bother using these other appeals paths. I could tell you from the moment I read their emails and looked at their appeals and looked at the Amazon messaging, I knew for a fact none of that was true. I knew it was a lawyer just pushing the envelope, trying to get paid, trying to get a sale. And also, they probably had no contacts in Amazon Legal. They probably had no relationships with anyone in Amazon Legal, no email addresses, nothing, right? They're peddling that concept out of self-interest. Most of the cases we see with account suspensions, especially, but also with ASIN takedowns and suspensions, do not involve legal angles that you have to play, do not involve legal issues or a legal process, unless it's tied to intellectual property violations. Of course, if you need an intellectual property lawyer, perhaps there's an interaction with Amazon Legal. If they're not, let's say, honoring your patent or your design or your copyright or your trademark infringement forms that you're sending in when you're reporting other sellers. Of course, that's a legal process. That's only logical. That only makes sense. I'm talking about situations where generally speaking, where the entire account is down, and lawyers, there are many of them. There are so many of them, they're probably bumping into each other out there, peddling this concept of you need a lawyer for this because it's a serious matter. This is a full account suspension. And to be taken seriously, you need to take a lawyer and go to Amazon Legal. Amazon Legal doesn't adjudicate, not even the majority of suspensions, even a high percentage of suspensions. That's not true. If you've heard that, I want to correct it. Related account suspensions, policy violations. Maybe if you're really stretching the definition of what policies you're breaking and you decide that there are legal issues because you're breaking the law when you're breaking an Amazon policy, I suppose you could kind of fudge the concept of needing a lawyer. But if it's violating their guidelines or their policies, those are policy suspensions. You need policy experts. You don't need an attorney for that. In my experience, most of the attorneys in the Amazon community or space aren't even that up on Amazon policies. They haven't read the updates on them. A lot of them don't correctly interpret or understand the policies themselves. I've seen videos, I've read articles. I can't link to them all here. Long story short, they misinterpret policy all the time. I don't see that many lawyers out there that fundamentally understand what these policies are about, what the motivations are for them inside Amazon. Don't recall if I've ever met an Amazon attorney, somebody that actually worked at Amazon who's consulting sellers now. I don't think there are. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to do so in the comments or to reach out to us at e-commerce Chris and let me know if there are attorneys that actually worked at Amazon who are in touch with attorneys in Amazon Legal and they communicate with them still, or they resolve account suspensions. I think a lot of lawyers that never worked at Amazon are pretending that that's the case, but I see no evidence of that. When challenged, if you challenge them when you're in the process of potentially hiring, I don't think they're going to give you any real convincing arguments or evidence that they are in touch with people in Amazon Legal. In theory, they could reach out to attorneys at Amazon Legal who might be able to forward or transfer an escalation that you put together or an appeal that you submitted to the proper team, simply because you could get an escalation or an appeal that you emailed into a different team. You could get an account manager or somebody maybe on the catalog teams. You could get different members of Amazon strategic account leadership teams to forward appeals to another team, yeah, that's theoretically possible. But what is their relationship to that person? Is it going to go into a black hole? Do they have a relationship there? Is there a prior track record of doing this successfully? That's when the answers kind of dry up and stop coming, in my experience. So consider these things very carefully. If it sounds more like a sales pitch than proof or evidence that they actually have contacts in Amazon Legal, take that seriously, because you could be spending money on something that doesn't really have any value, number one. Number two, again, most suspensions don't have any legal issues present. So do some fact finding and researching and due diligence around, are there any legal issues present? Because you probably don't need a lawyer if there aren't any legal issues tied to the nature of that suspension. Any of this isn't making sense. Some of it's nuanced or complicated. I understand. Reach out to me. I'm always around to answer questions about this. So let me know. Once again, Chris McCabe, thanks for listening.